In recent years, Western countries have been imposing various restrictions on China's high-tech products, especially in the fields of chips and drones, trying to completely get rid of their dependence on China in the supply chain. And the de-risking that we often hear has become a catchphrase they frequently talk about. As early as when Biden was in power, the United States even issued a special bill that clearly stipulated that the military and law enforcement agencies were not allowed to purchase drones made in China. Otherwise, they would face severe penalties. But unexpectedly, in July this year, the United States suddenly announced the lifting of the ban on Chinese drones, allowing the military to repurchase Chinese-made products, even those containing Chinese parts. This big reversal in policy can't help but make people wonder, is this a failure to block Chinese drones? Next, will China be willing to continue to export drones and key components to them? Over the past decade, if you like our video content, please click to subscribe to my YouTube channel so that you can receive all our latest video content. Now, let's get into today's topic. China's drone industry has experienced rapid development, even occupying the world's first position in the global market. Taking the data of 2023 as an example, among the top 5 companies in the global civil drone market, China's DJI innovation ranks first, almost monopolizing 70% to 80% of the global commercial drone market. It is expected that by 2030, the global market size of this industry is expected to exceed $580 billion, and China is expected to take more than 70% of the consumer market. The American magazine Science once pointed out that DJI drones have become an important tool for many scientific researchers. From tracking the dynamics of carbon cycles and ecosystems to real-time monitoring of endangered species, many scientific research projects now rely on its precise control and efficient operation. But seeing that the development of Chinese drones has gradually escaped the control of Western countries, they began to worry that if Chinese drones were spread all over the world, it would be a disaster. Against this background, Western countries have had to introduce a series of policy measures in recent years to try to restrict the entry and expansion of Chinese drones and prevent them from continuing to expand their influence in the global market. As early as 2023, the United States launched a legal offensive against Chinese drone companies. At that time, an American company called Textron filed a lawsuit in court, claiming that DJI's 2 core technologies of hovering and remote tracking infringed their patent rights. In the end, the United States made a decision to fine DJI a total of up to $6 billion. Subsequently, the United States repeatedly tried to force DJI to hand over the core source code of its drone system on the grounds of security review in an attempt to master key technologies. On the surface, it is a security consideration, but in fact, it wants to push DJI into a passive situation where it must constantly prove its innocence and is exhausted through technical suppression. Immediately afterwards, the US government proposed a bill to completely ban the sale of DJI drones in the country, further excluding it from the US market. In 2024, the US House of Representatives passed a bill on the grounds of national security to prohibit DJI Innovations and another Chinese drone manufacturer, Daotong Intelligent, from selling any new products in the United States, and emphasized that the Pentagon must not purchase any drone parts from China. According to this proposal, DJI and Docom will be officially included in the restricted list, prohibiting them from launching any new models of drones in the United States. A US official even publicly stated, DJI and Docom are not only the dominant players in the market, but are also more likely to be used by the Chinese government for intelligence gathering. We must take measures to protect the data security of the United States. Western countries originally wanted to use this series of containment measures to curb the development of Chinese drones, but they finally found that the blockade of Chinese drones was meaningless. According to the 2024 report, in the past year, the total export volume of Chinese drones has reached 3.7234 million, with a total export value of more than $1.8 billion. Among them, The Netherlands is the largest importer of Chinese civil drones, with a purchase amount of approximately $212 million US, accounting for 12.21% of China's total drone exports. It is followed by the United States and Germany, with export amounts of $159 million US and $103 million US, respectively, accounting for 9.13% and 5.97% of the total. According to the growth trend of previous years, it is expected that in another 4 to 5 years, China's annual drone exports are expected to exceed 10 million. By 2035, the total export volume is expected to reach 10 billion US dollars. But just when everyone thought that the United States would continue to increase its crackdown on the technology and market of Chinese drones, in July of this year, the United States suddenly issued an announcement announcing that it would abolish the drone purchase ban implemented from 2021 to 2022 and even resume the purchase of drones containing Chinese parts. This also means that their blockade of Chinese drones has completely failed. But the question is, why did the United States suddenly lift the ban on Chinese drones? In fact, in recent years, American military enterprises have been trying to get rid of their dependence on Chinese drones. To this end, they spent 3 years fully supporting local enterprises, hoping to build a drone that can truly replace Chinese products. As early as 2016, Intel acquired a drone company called Ascending Technologies, but 6 years later, due to continued poor operating conditions, Intel had to sell the company to Musk's younger brother. Another company that was once highly expected, 3D Robotics, was not spared. When they launched the Solo drone, it was advertised as a combination of various high-end features, such as support for custom flight paths, open code interfaces, automatic flight, etc., and was even once called the smartest drone in history by the media. These features were relatively rare on DJI products at the time. However, Solo soon encountered serious bottlenecks in the mass production stage. The production capacity of the anti-shake gimbal could not keep up, and the GPS system also frequently had connection problems, resulting in an unstable user experience. As a result, users who were originally full of expectations for the product began to be disappointed, and eventually a large number of consumers left, and the company could only stop production in the end. But what is even more ironic is that even after the ban was officially implemented, the US military did not really get rid of Chinese drones. Some media broke the news that the Pentagon had purchased a large number of DJI equipment through a third-party agency to bypass the restrictions, and then provided them to the troops in the form of leasing. But in my opinion, the fundamental reason that really prompted the United States to begin to loosen the ban may be China's export control on key drone technologies in July last year. The scope of this control covers some civilian drones and their core components, such as brushless motors, LiDAR, flight control systems, etc. These are basically the core heart and brain of drones. We mentioned at the beginning that about 70% to 80% of the world's commercial drones come from China. So when these core parts are subject to export restrictions, the import process for some companies will be particularly complicated and the approval cycle will be longer. Data shows that since China officially implemented export controls from September 2024 to April 2025, the export volume of infrared imaging equipment alone has dropped by about 30% year on year, but the total export amount has increased by nearly 50%. Among them, the number of infrared equipment exported to the United States has dropped by about 60%. But this is not an isolated case. For precision key components, such as inertial measurement equipment, the export volume has dropped by as much as 80%, while the price has skyrocketed fourfold. This has directly pushed many local American manufacturers to the brink of high costs. In addition to the technology itself, the production of drones cannot avoid a key material, rare earth. At present, the world's proven rare earth reserves are about 130 million tons, and China accounts for 55 million tons of them, which is about 42% of the world's total, ranking first in the world. But the problem is that China has imposed strict restrictions on rare earth exports this year. which has caused many related industries to face a crisis of suspension of production. And a small drone actually needs to use rare earth materials. Although the amount is not large, each part is critical. For example, brushless motors are commonly used in drones, and the high-performance magnets in them need rare earth elements such as neodymium and dysprosium. These magnets can make the motor lighter and more powerful, and make the flight more stable. There is also a gyroscope, which is responsible for controlling the flight attitude, and sometimes rare earth materials are used to improve sensitivity and stability. Although the rare earths used in a drone are not many, these key parts are irreplaceable. So when the rare earth supply chain is blocked, many companies and even military projects may be shut down or even face a crisis. But now, the United States has announced the lifting of the ban on Chinese drones, hoping to ease the tension to some extent. You may be curious, isn't China losing its own interests by controlling the export of key drone technologies? In fact, China's export control of key drone technologies is, on the one hand, to respond to various Western sanctions, and on the other hand, to prevent certain countries from using these technologies in parts for military purposes. This time, some drones with relatively high performance are included in the scope of control, such as drones with a maximum takeoff weight of more than 7 kilograms, with a throwing function, equipped with a hyperspectral camera, or with a wireless image transmission distance of more than 50 kilometers, as well as their core components. Once these high-performance equipment flows into the hands of countries with ulterior motives, they are likely to be converted into simple cruise missiles, anti-armor weapons, etc., and eventually used in military operations. Of course, Western countries have also suppressed and restricted China's drone industry over the years. On the one hand, they want to limit the expansion of Chinese drones in the global market, and on the other hand, they suppress China's research and development capabilities through technological blockades. This time, China has taken the initiative by setting new rules, forcing the other side to sit down and talk again, which is also protecting its core interests. However, what is more interesting is that the country most affected by this round of technology control is actually the United States. At present, nearly 80% of the core components of drones in the United States, such as motors, batteries, flight control systems, etc., are imported from China. The United States has neither a complete industrial chain nor mature related technologies. It is almost impossible to fully realize localization. This also directly leads to higher costs for drones made in the United States. According to data, the average cost of a drone made in the United States is as high as $2,100 US, which is 8 to 14 times the price of similar products in China. Moreover, due to the inability to keep up with production capacity, the delivery cycle is also seriously delayed, which seriously affects the deployment efficiency and combat readiness of frontline troops. What's more embarrassing is that even the top military enterprises in the United States are now unable to independently undertake the task of rebuilding the U.S. drone industry chain. Today's China is no longer the passive role of being beaten and manipulated. In the past, Western countries rushed to suppress any industry in China as soon as they saw that it was developing rapidly, trying to curb China's rise through various means. From electric vehicles to chip technology, from new energy to high-end manufacturing, no one can really stop China's development. In the final analysis, the old approach of relying on suppression to stop China's development is becoming less and less effective. To not miss out on our future projects and news updates, please make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications. We will continue to provide you with more exciting and interesting content.